I know this is what you wait for. We're talking about sleepers. I've got names. There's so many of them. You haven't even heard of these names. No one's heard of them. Everyone's hiding them. I'm going to tell you the sleepers that win your fantasy league, or we're just going to have a chat to Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I'm also known as Prune Tracy. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to fanduel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. We've got Points League available, about 50 spots in that. Category League Fantasy Basketball Bowl, 9-cat, maybe 15 spots. And I have put an auction draft up, but I'm pretty certain by the time you are listening to this or watching this that will be full. Pretty sure. There will be more. I don't know how many more. I want to get the Points Bowl filled as well. But that auction is probably going to fill within 10 to 20 minutes, I'm guessing. So just be aware of that. But it's at linktree/LOFB Bowl. You can also go ahead in the description and find a link to the FBI World Cup, huge fantasy basketball 9-cat tournament, about 600 teams, one grand prize winner, other prizes as well. Plus, we have multiple phases of that during the season with redrafts as well. So, FBI World Cup in the description, Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl in the description. Auction leagues are starting to come out. Now, I was maybe slightly hyperbolic to start the show to tell you that I've got all the names that no one's heard of, that people aren't even ranking anywhere, and they're the ones that win your league, because it's clearly not true. It's clearly garbage, right? It's just not a real thing. What I am here to do is go across Yahoo, Fantrax, and ESPN and look at where there is a lot of value in category leagues. Points League, guys, this same video will come. Tomorrow, day after, in the next day or two. Don't worry. And then we'll do busts again, and more mock drafts, and finish the team previews. So, we are looking at, I think we've got about 20 names on Yahoo, 20 names on ESPN, 20 names on Fantrax, to look at where I think there's at least a couple of rounds, if not more, of value based on where they're ranked. Now, I made a decision, I'm just giving you a bit of a preamble here when doing this, is I'm looking at the current ranks, because on Yahoo, the ranking has changed recently. On ESPN, well, that's a whole different story, because the ranking changed last week. That has been reflected into their draft rooms and on their projection page. But then it changed again yesterday. And that ranking sheet has not reflected anywhere 24 hours later. So with ESPN, it's tough because I don't know what you're going to see. So I'm giving you at the moment values based on the current rank, which will display in a draft room. But that can be adjusted at any point. And when you see some of the differences that ESPN makes from a week ago, through to what it is now, like you go, well, how can I know this stuff when there are guys moving 80 spots, which is pretty wild when nothing is happening. So just be aware of that when we're talking about this, because ADP usually just, unless there's egregious examples, ADP usually follows rank. So if a rank adjusts, ADP moves with it. On the other side, if there's a big difference between ADP and rank, and an ADP is like way higher or way lower, the next rank update will usually then mirror that ADP. So that's generally how those two things interact with each other on whatever site. So we might as well just get in here and talk Yahoo. Talk Yahoo sleepers, the big Zs, the ones that are giving us the naps, or people are napping on perhaps, and they're not there to win their leagues because they don't care enough, not like you do. Who are the guys that we're taking a squiz at? This will all adjust, and your leagues may or may not be more or less competitive than some of these numbers that are up here, and you've got to take all this stuff into consideration. And remember, a value player is not a value player if you start to grab them ahead of where you think they're going to finish. In some cases, I don't mind grabbing someone ahead of ADP or ahead of rank. If you think that there's a strong chance they return that value, who cares? Because you do that all the way in round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4. You do it all the time. But just be cautious you're not going too hard, because there's no such thing as a must-have player. It does not exist. It is not a real thing. Must draft, must have, gotta get. Doesn't exist. Not a real thing. You will be shooting yourself in the dick if you approach things. If you have one, you will be approaching things if you approach things that way. Don't do it. Isaiah Jackson. Currently on Yahoo, the big fella is ranked 420th. Seems low, right? Seems low. Even if we didn't have the word from Rick Carlisle that he was currently running with the starters, 420 would be low, because that would mean in a 30-team league, you would not draft him. Of course, insane. We get that. His ADP is 142. I took him in round 10 of a category league draft. I don't know that he's going to miss games. There's going to be back-to-backs that he misses. He's going to have some minutes restriction problems. But I was looking at my team when I need some blocks, man. Like, I need to do something about this center position, so I grabbed him. And I don't care. If it doesn't work out, if Jay Huff takes that spot, whatever, I will move on. But I think there is a lot of value in Isaiah Jackson with that rank of 420. Of course, there's a lot of value in that, but he had ADP even of 142. But again, I'm basing a lot of this off rank. Last season in 17 minutes, he blocked 1.6 shots, 61% with 5.6 rebounds. Honestly, if he gives you that, you don't mind it outside the top 100. That's okay as it is. It's not great, obviously, but it's okay. The next guy on the list is another player that we felt like he was going to start, and we saw him start, and we feel better about him starting, and that's Mitchie Robinson, who's for some reason ranked at 372. Do you want me to tell you again what would happen in a 30-team league there? Yeah, well, he'd be close to undrafted. His ADP is 140. I actually feel a bit more confident in Jackson than I do in Robinson on a per-game basis, but there's more of a risk of back-to-backs with Isaiah. I think Isaiah does have higher upside than Mitch, but they're very similar players, obviously. But yeah, these are guys that just need to be drafted. Al Horford has a rank of 211 on Yahoo. His ADP is 140. I'm certain he will start for the Warriors. Last season, when Porzingis had whatever illness he had, Horford was a top 100 player. And there's no Porzingis in Golden State. And yeah, like Jackson, he's probably going to sit back-to-backs. But that's okay. My last round pick, I'm very comfortable with doing that. Tari Eason's got a rank of 141 with an ADP of 123, and there was some talk from Ime Udoka that Eason would be they'd be a little bit cautious with him on some early back-to-backs. Not all season though. But I think that like with a rank of 141, I think he can beat it by 60 spots. The absence of Fred VanVleet, and I was a little worried about Tari this season, given all the forwards they have, but VanVleet's out. Finney Smith is out. So Amen Thompson's not going to be able to play much up at the 3 or anything like that. He's going to have to almost be strictly a 1. See, I love Eason at that spot. Even that ADP of 123, there's maybe 50 spots of value there. And the next guy is another one of these players, like Isaiah Jackson, like Mitchie Robinson, and someone I'm feeling more and more confident is going to be the starter, and that is the Pastel Donata, Nemesh Keita. Keita is a holdover. And if they give him the same level of, I don't know, organizational deference that they do to Peyton Pritchard, well, he's been here. It's his opportunity to start when you're comparing Keita to Boucher and Luka Garza. Well, Keita should get that nod. He's a good rim protector. He's not going to kill free throws. He's a high field goal guy. He's a high rebound guy. I don't think he's a 30-minute guy, but like 27 wouldn't be an outrageous upside prediction for Nemesh. He's ranked 188, considering, again, that says, this is what he says, in 14, what do you use up to? What are they saying? I've lost my mind. It's early on a Saturday morning. Nemesh Keita, 188, says in a 14-team league, you maybe don't pick him. I say garbage. You pick him in 10-team leagues. So, good start there, Josh. You're really firing up with some names there for Yahoo. Let's get to some more Yahoo sleepers. Cameron Whitmore with a rank of 164. Now, Bilal Coulibaly is not available to begin the season. We also heard the Wizards talking about that Bilal had been there and he had a lot of minutes, and they said, we really do need to see what Cam can do. And I went, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean they're going to pull Bilal's minutes back and there's a little bit more Whitmore in there? Whitmore's upside to be a high scorer with threes and steals, and maybe there's a little bit of rebounds in there, assists. He's never met them. He doesn't know anything about them. I've never even heard of it. So don't worry about that. But Whitmore's upside makes him a draftable guy. I hate that I'm telling you that I like DeAndre Hunter because he's boring as shit. I hate watching him play. I hate his fantasy game in general. But he's currently ranked 166. He's going to be playing on a team that is not going to have Max Strus until probably January. He is playing on a team that currently does not have Darius Garland. So he's going to have to do a lot early, and the ramp down won't really come until January. So yeah, like this is a guy that should be drafted. Mark Williams is a tough one because at rank 89, kills it, destroys it, dominates it, no problem. He's a top 50 player, easy. The worry you have is like, what is actually going on? Because he's not practicing or playing in preseason. They're not saying that he's injured. They're saying they've got a plan. Is it a concept of a plan? Like, what is the plan? Tell us the plan. Have you got a plan? I'd love to know what your plan is. Can you please plan on telling us this plan? So I like Mark at 80. I like him at 70. I like him at 60. So I think there's even top 40 upside. But I'm getting a little shaky on it. Tamani Kamara's ranked at 141. Lol, this is a top 100 player. I'm pretty confident in that, especially with the absence of Simons. The injury to Scoot, he is locked in as a starter, Tamani Kamara, and there's enough value there, easy. And then Jakob Poeltl is probably a top 50 guy as well. He's ranked at 84, his ADP is 84. He hasn't really moved that much, and I thought he would, so just continue to take the value that Jakob Poeltl provides. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is why there is Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, linking your accounts in minutes, seeing clear data visuals, smart categorization of your spending, and you can feel finally in control of your money, and you don't even have to touch those pesky spreadsheets. That's for nerds. Why would you want to do that? Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks as I read this off my spreadsheet. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. Yeah, we're back. It is sleepers time. We're talking Yahoo Fantasy Basketball, looking at where their ranks are currently aligned and who I think is ranked incorrectly. Now, I expect that Yahoo will give us another ranking update at some point. And I talked about this the other day. I don't know what is going on with their ranks. Because all their ranks, we said, they're leaning into points leagues. Their default cash is points. Their default public prize is points. Their default commissioner setting is points. They've, for some reason, introduced a horrible concept in this Yahoo High Score League, which is points. So, yeah, I'm guessing their X rank is points. And then they went out and made adjustments, and all the adjustments make it look like it's for categories. So, and the way that I know that is that Paulo Banchero started at 13, and now he's 40th. So, I can't explain any of that. So I don't know if they make another change to X rank moving forward that then realigns it with what they are trying to push onto people. They're going to peer pressure you to playing points leagues? Don't know. But there's and again, these are the two biggest sites, Yahoo and ESPN, and their ranking setup and how it plays makes no sense at all. So we have to try and decipher what they're trying to do without them knowing what they're trying to do. Kevin Porter Jr., Doc Rivers has told us that Porter will start. Great. He's ranked at 115. Starting point guards, in that portion of the draft, there's nobody. And I will take Porter. Now, he can be bad at field goals and free throw percentage, absolutely. Assists, rebounds, points should be pretty good. His three-point volume was solid enough, and his steal numbers were good. I've taken him in a lot of drafts. An ADP of 122, rank of 115. This is, again, a top 100-ish sort of guy, I think. Draymond Green sits at a rank of 108 with an ADP of 107. That's one of these ones that's sort of in the middle, and I guess there's some tying into that with injury risk, but Draymond's ability to be a steals and blocks above average guy at that point in the draft is just not existent. You can't find that sort of a player. He was really good last season down the stretch. I think that there's, we're talking, can we get 25 spots of value from guys? Yeah, I think you can with Draymond there. Aaron Gordon, I am buying a little bit of the shooting improvement for him, not all of it, and there were some worrying injury things last season, but I think he's just being put again, maybe 20 spots too low. 125 is his rank. 107 ADP is not bad, but if we're doing all this based on the rank, I like it. And Onyeka Okongwu's at 95. His ADP is 93. I think that even as a backup to Porzingis, he's a top 80 guy. And that's not even included, like that's me projecting Porzingis for about 60, 65 games. If he plays 40, well, Okongwu's a top 50 guy. So it's one of these ones where ranked at 95, if you take him at 80, I don't even think there's any bother with you losing out on floor there. I think it's great. And all it is upside. I love that. And then Alex Sarr. you'll notice that his ADP is 75, but his rank is 105, which suggests one of two things. I can't really remember, but I think this is what happened. I think that his rank used to be higher, and they've bumped him down to 105. Or people have just said, screw your rank, we're picking him high. To me, in the 70s, that is a fair spot for Ausar. He was horrid last season with shooting. But he did say, and I don't know whether it will work, but he said, I want to take more shots closer to the basket, which will bump the field goals up, bump the scoring up, bump the fantasy value up. So, yeah, to me in the 70s, Alex Sarr is a good way to look at it. And then we've got 6 more names here on Yahoo. Again, we're looking at guys with about at least 20 spots of value based on their rank. Brandon Pajemski's at 121. Yep, I talked about that on the Warriors show yesterday. Brandon Miller's at 50. Now, that's not quite 20 spots of value, but per game, he can be top 30. And when you're in those first 4 rounds, someone who can maybe jump up a round or so, especially with the absence of like a Tyler Hero in that range, given his injury, Miller's ability to be a high-volume 3-point guy with scoring, great free throws, and just like a sneaky level of peripherals is something interesting. Keegan Murray's at 116. As much as I think it's hard to see the usage upside, what he does in the other areas is enough, similar to Draymond. Andy Wiggins at 103, again, probably like an 80th best player. Very hard to see how he's worse than that. Peyton Pritchard at 65. Now, he is coming in a lot. He was positioned way lower than this. And at 65, you might say, Josh, that's getting a little risky, and I agree with that. But my projection has him top 50. And I don't think I would take him in the top 50, but I'm just mentioning to you that even at 65, while you have the rumbling in your stomach, ooh, Peyton Pritchard there? I don't know about that. And you have that based on the projections. And when I see these ones that look weird, I go back and look at them and go, what is wrong with this? Can I change it? What is different? And I can't really get it to be much worse. So I actually think he is still potential, or at least value at that spot. And then Ausar Thompson, who has also come in a huge way. I think he's close to top 50. He's now into 77. He was starting off outside the top 100, so there's been gigantic adjustments there. I still think at 77, much like Pritchard, there is value in it, but he might actually be able to do more than that. So that's going to be one that we want to watch. Let's look at Fantrax and sleepers across there. Now, a lot of the names I'm going to mention here for Fantrax are the same names that I mentioned on Yahoo, and that's going to be the same on ESPN. And Fantrax, the rankings, it's more important on Fantrax, I believe, to look at ADP. So I'm going to highlight some names on Fantrax at ADP where I think you're still getting value. And again, a lot of these names are similar or the same. Al Horford, 196, love it. Eason, 114, beautiful. Kevin Porter Jr., 120. Cam Whitmore, 146. I like all of those. A different one on Fantrax is Drew Holiday. Now, on Yahoo, they've pushed him up to 80, which is about right, I would say. But on Fantrax, he's sitting at 124 ADP. So if you can get Drew outside the top 100, I would be doing that all the time. As much as Drew dropped off a lot last season and he's older, Scoot is out. There is no other point guard. There's nobody else. Part of why he dropped, some of it was age, but also he just didn't need to do anything in Boston. And while Portland has other players that are good, he will have to do more. So can that offset the age? I think to a degree, yes. So at 124, I do like Drew Holiday quite a bit there. Nemesh Cater's on this list at number 156. Reed Shepherd is at number 153. I am seeing Reed start to go even, I think around 100 is about right. I'm starting to see him go inside the top 100 in some spots, but both of these guys look pretty strong. I've got old mate DeAndre Hunter at 140. Brandon Miller at 56. But then this one's a weird one. Walker Kessler's ADP on Fantrax is 105. Now, I think that most of you would look at Kessler and say he's easily better than that. Some of you might suggest he's even a top 50 guy, and I'm not sure I'm quite there with that. But there is a huge risk with Utah, absolutely. But if you're worried about shutdown risks for a guy you pick in the 70s, I think you might be approaching it wrong, personally. So 105, that's one of the easiest snaps you'll get, I think, for a player of that caliber in that spot. Let's look at Aaron Gordon on Fantrax with an ADP of 122. Again, I just talked about him. I do think there is quite a bit there to like. Let's also look at Draymond at 101. And Ausar Thompson sits at 83. Now, I just said that Yahoo's brought him into the 70s, but I think he's close to a top 50-ish sort of player. And that he's giving trajectory, Ausar, of that when you get to 2 weeks away, he's going to be getting picked in the 50s. I think that'll happen. And then we start to make the decision of like, well, do I trust this? In 23 minutes a night last season, he averaged 10, 5, and 2 with 1.7 steals. He shot 54 from the field. But they've also said that they want the ball in his hands a little bit more. So that's interesting in terms of those assist numbers. It might not work. And we are getting close to Ausar pushing too high. We're not there yet. Aaron Neesmith at an ADP of 132. Tremendous value. Upside isn't top 70, but top 100, 110. Blocks, efficiency, threes. And like most players in Indiana this season, should see a usage bump. And then Peyton Pritchard sits at number 70 as well with his ADP, which I do think still provides a level of value. Herb Jones at 120 is very low. And I thought Fantrax users would be much higher on Herb than that, but they're not, so that's great. Mark Williams at 64, I talked about that. That is getting high just because of the risk, and if we start to hear a little bit more worrying things out of camp, then that won't be value, so be aware of that. And Jakob Poeltl at 67, much better than the Yahoo positioning at 83. But again, I think this is like a top 50-ish sort of guy, and he is being drafted closer to that on Fantrax. But I do still think that you can get some value out of him if you're getting him in the 60s there. And remember, ADP is an average, so you're getting him in the 70s in some spots as well. We'll come back and try and figure out what is going on at ESPN. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. So right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That is right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use right across the app. It's props, it's spreads, it's totals, it's straight ups, it's same game parlays, it's live betting. It's futures, it's NBA, WNBA, NHL, MLB, NFL, college football, NASCAR, UFC. Put it all together, man. But make sure you win that $5 bet so you get your $300 in bonus bets to start things off. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, we are here talking about sleepers across Yahoo, Fantrax, and now we're getting to ESPN. And I mentioned this at the start, and I'll mention it again. It is incredibly hard at the moment to decipher what is going on over there. And that's a statement that I could probably utter every day of the year, and it would be accurate. At the moment, though, I don't fully know how to do this, because you go to ESPN Fantasy Basketball, you open the page and it goes Roto Category Leagues, Roto Head-to-Head Category Leagues. And you go, okay, well, it's weird that they're combined into one ranking, but whatever. You go, updated October the 1st. You go, bam, that's pretty recent. Their last update was the 23rd of September, so a week ago, right? So, okay. And then you go in there and you see some crazy things. You see, like, Chet Holmgren wasn't number 10 last week. Now he's at 24. Oh, that's a weird move. Josh Giddey went from 55 to 12. Well, what's going on there? Big jump. Brook Lopez went from 53 to 129. Yeah, that makes sense, sort of, but why are you adjusting someone 80 spots in a week? But also, okay, you go, well, they've updated their rankings, and a lot of these look like they make more sense. But then you go into a draft, and these rankings don't appear. The old rankings do. Josh Giddey is at 55 in the draft room. You go to the page inside your league, and you go to player projections, and Brook Lopez sits at 53. So how do I judge this? Well, all I can tell you is these rankings have been live for over a day. They're sitting on a random article on the front of the page. But when you're doing a draft, are you actually toggling, or are others toggling through to a different tab or printing out whatever this list is and referencing that? Or are they just going by what is shown to them in the draft room that says rank? I'm going to bet that most people are just in an ESPN draft room and just looking like, oh, this is how they're ranked. I'll just use that ranking. And it's not this. Now, in 10 hours' time, maybe that list inside a draft room gets updated to this one that is part of the article they've got. But I don't know that. I thought when I'd wake up today that it would be changed and you would find these new rankings in the draft room. By the way, the new rankings that have Kevin Durant behind Nikola Vucevic. Right? I thought we'd see that. I thought we'd see the rankings that have Reed Shepherd at 55 and Kevin Porter at 57. But we don't. So I'm going to go by what we've got at the moment. The two numbers you see on the screen. The first number is the number that appears in draft rooms and in player projections for ESPN category leagues. The second number is the number that is on the written draft or the written rankings article that was updated October 1st. So, Cam Whitmore, in a draft room, you got to scroll down to 276. On the article, he's at 117, which is maybe high, but it's fine. Kevin Porter, you got to scroll down to 228. That's unbelievable sleeper zone. In the article, he's at 57, which is I don't think so. We are not doing that. Matas Buzelis sits at 235 in the draft room. You've got to scroll all the way down. Keep scrolling, keep going. Oh, there he is. Yeah, we love that. The article puts him at 103. Now, this is one where I go, 103, I still like that. I think he's a 70s or 80s guy, so I do like that. Peyton Pritchard is at 156 in the draft room. Way too low. The article has Pritchard at 77. Still a little low. Tamani Kamara sits at 180 in the draft room. Insanely low, ridiculous. Scroll down. Would suggest undrafted in 14-team leagues. Him at 89 on the article is bang on. Not really a sleeper, but again, how do I process when their draft room and their article has 100 spots of difference between guys? Who is looking at what? I don't know, and I wanted to get this show out. Bunch of the next guys here, some similar names we've talked about. DeAndre Hunter. Again, I don't like to tell you that I like drafting DeAndre Hunter late, but I do. He's at 209 with 144 in the new article. But this one's probably more interesting. Shaden Sharp's at 174. A lot of talk out of Blazers camp about how good he's been. Also, that's great. I love to hear that. Are you going to start him? Because at the moment, it's probably him or Jeremy Grant. Because I don't think they're benching Kamara. I don't think they can bench Drew. And I don't think they're going to bench Denny. But one of those guys, and Grant and Sharp, will come off the bench. So their team still makes no sense. But Sharp at 100 is probably about right. Aaron Neesmith's at 197 on the old ranks, 141 on the new ones. Value in both spots. Isaiah Jackson was ranked 238th. Got to scroll down to find him. I love doing that. The new ranks, which only go to 150, don't have him in it at all. So yeah, we're big on that. That's a huge one. And then Andy Nembhard was 202nd in the draft room. And as much as I'm not as big on Nembhard as others are this season, at 202, obviously we're doing it. The new list has him at 95. And at that spot, I go, that's probably about fine. It's definitely not value at 95, but it's probably about fine. Denny Avdia looked like an unbelievable steal because he's positioned in draft rooms at 106, and I think that he's a top 50 guy without question. And he's one of these guys, again, the people like, you can't possibly have Denny that high. Look at his numbers last season. His numbers last season don't matter that much because he was a player off the bench to begin the year. He played like 30 minutes a night. And while I don't believe that he does what he did down the stretch, he's not coming into this season, Denny Avdia, playing 30 minutes a night off the bench. He's not doing that. So don't look at him and say, well, this is what he is. He's not, and I'm not a Denny guy. He's not that guy from last season's full season total stats. Ben Mathurin was ranked at 190. Lol, I don't like Mathurin either, but 190 is silly. The new rankings have him at 124, which is still probably a little sleeperish there. Tari Eason's at 138. Again, would have loved that. 99 gives you a bit of scope also, which is the new ranking for Eason to get value on him. Brandon Pajemski was at 162, which I'd snap that up. The new rankings don't have him. He's not in their top 150 on the new ones either, so we're still cooking with that one. And then Andy Wiggins at 141. Love that. The new rankings have him at 65, and then I said absolutely not. Do not take Andrew Wiggins at 65. And that shows you, again, a disconnect in a few things. Players are valuable. Players are sleepers. Andrew Wiggins is a sleeper at 141. Andrew Wiggins at 120 is a sleeper. If Andrew Wiggins gets positioned at 65, he's at absolutely no way do we touch that. And it also indicates what is going on. That in a week, Andrew Wiggins jumped 80 spots in their rankings, which were updated September 23rd. He was at 141. October 1st, 65th. Unless something dramatic happened. Is this the Tyler Hero injury news that bumped him 80 spots? Maybe benefit of the doubt would suggest that's what it is. It's not. Jim Butler III. This one remains insane. I'm not a James guy in general, but Jimmy's was at 97. You go to a draft room, Jimmy Butler's at 97. So you think they'd correct that? Well, they did. He's 94th now. That's still 40, 50 spots of value. Pretty easily. And Yekra Kongwu was at 126. I would have loved that. New one's at 84. Not bad. 126 is still in the draft rooms though. Mark Williams is at 94. I do like that. The new rankings has him lower at 119. So I guess they're a little bit more worried about injury, and I do get that. But 119 is free real estate. DeAndre Ayton, also another one of these ones that you look at the positioning of him in the draft room at 125 and you go, all right, that they're gonna change that. And they did, you're right. They moved him down to 132. So he is absolutely full steam ahead as a draft value at 132. And then Santi Aldama at 163 with all of the Grizzlies injuries. Now, I think later on in the season you will drop him, but 163 is immense value. Him up to 105 is scary. I wouldn't want to do it at 105 because I don't think there's any shot of him maintaining even close to that all year. But it is a pretty sizable adjustment that we do have to pay attention to. And that is a bunch of names that are sleepers that could be thrown completely into chaos when new rankings are updated, when Yahoo decides that X rank now represents points leagues again, and ESPN changes their draft room to match their new list that they've got up for whatever reason. Like their new list, if I was going to tell you a sleeper off their new list, Jalen Johnson's at 44, behind Alex Sarr. That doesn't make sense. They got Austin Reeves at 51. All right. I think there's a pretty large portion of value in that one, right? But I don't know. Brandon Miller's at 71 on the new list. All right, I'm on board. Zion's at 78. Every day of the week, I would take Zion there. But then I just don't know what they're doing with this list. I don't know when they're moving it, if they're moving it. I don't know any of that stuff. It remains a confusing situation, I think, for most. It's not confusing, though, to join the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. Just go to Linktree/LOFB Bowl. QR codes on the screen, links in the description, and the same goes for the FBI World Cup, where you can find the link to join that in the descriptions on audio and video as well. Guys, there will be a bus show. There will be Points League Sleeper show, and hopefully that ESPN or even Yahoo gives us a little bit more clarity on what they're doing, but don't hold your breath. I don't want you to die. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.